Hi, Vicets here. So as long as I've had my channel and as long as I've been doing reviews, I've had a policy where if someone buys me a game, I'll review it. And the first time I was taken up on that offer, it was Yogurt. Check out my review. It's pretty good. The second time I was taken up on that offer, it's coming out on top. I should not have accepted the game because I did not make a review for it because I didn't want to play coming out on top. Sorry. The third time I've been taken up on that offer is this time for Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. I didn't really know anything about it. My buddy Y came back, who bought it for me. You may know Y came back as the man I was in the race war to 100 subscribers with. He bought me this game. He said he played it and it was really good. He really liked it. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll check it out. And I didn't really have the same experience that he had with it. I didn't really like it. And I think that it probably just is a game that's just not for me because there's nothing really too egregious with it. There's nothing really wrong with it. And I try not to make reviews on games that I just don't think are for me because it might be a fine game if you like this sort of game. I can generally say what about a game is good or bad if I have a strong opinion on it. But like, say for sports games, for example, for football, I don't know much about football. I don't particularly enjoy football. And someone could put the best football game ever made in my hands, and I could just say I didn't like it. And that's bad for two reasons, because one, if you're going to make a review, you should say more than just I didn't like it. And two, again, it might be really good. I just don't have enough information or passion about that sort of thing. And for Kingdoms of Amalur, I do like fantasy games. I do like action games, but for some reason it just didn't sit with me. Oh, there's nothing really wrong with it. I had some like technical issues, and that's the only thing I feel like that was like a legitimate complaint about. But the rest just came down to I wasn't feeling it. And I guess I'll get into that a little bit sooner. Let's start with the technical issues with this game. So I installed the game, I played it a little bit, and when I first started playing the game, I was having an issue with my controller, where the D-pad was for moving around and the right joystick was for looking around. And I thought that's really weird. Why shouldn't it just be the left thumbstick and the right thumbstick for moving and looking around like every other game that uses a controller with two thumbsticks? So the reason is that Kingdoms of Amalur is a Re-Reckoning is a port of the original Kingdom of Amalur, and the original game came out on the Xbox 360, and this does feel like an Xbox 360 game. So in the Xbox 360 controller, the layout was where the D-pad normally is on a controller. That's where the joystick was. They were in different spots. And so now that it's been ported, on my controller, the D-pad is where the Xbox 360 joystick would be. So the game thinks it's doing everything correctly. However, I'm looking at my controller and it's wrong. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go ahead and I'll just change the controller settings. Well, you can't do that. You can't change the controller settings. And it was kind of annoying, but it wasn't annoying enough to switch to mouse and keyboard. I'm a console gamer usually, so if I'm ever in the mood to use a controller, I will use a controller, and I'll just use the one that I have. It wasn't worth relearning all the new buttons and stuff, right? So that was pretty annoying. Another issue that I had technical-wise is the game just didn't install right, and I didn't realize that until about an hour, and then going on Reddit and then asking like a dumbass about my tech problems. So the issue that I had was that when I first talked to the first NPC you actually talked to, he didn't have any voice lines, and it just skipped all the way through. It was like less than half a second for each of his voice lines for the text at the bottom to play, and it just skipped right through. I also want to say, it's not a complaint, something I think is funny. The first NPC you meet is a manlet named Incel. Just think it's funny. So I'm like, this can't be right? So I go on Reddit and I ask about it, and everyone's like, nope, we've never had that problem. And I figure out what it was, is that it just didn't install right. So I had to go reinstall the game, and then everything worked fine. All the voice lines were there, and it was fine. But in that moment where I was on Reddit and looking for solutions to my tech problem, I see a lot of people complaining that this is just a very buggy game in general. some of the things I've seen, and as far as complaints about the bugs in this game, are actually on the Steam page, the store page itself, where I've seen people say that the game has soft locked them at 80 hours, and how there are other issues, and the a lot to get into. Apparently, the original game was already a buggy mess, but then they introduced a whole bunch of other technical problems and bugs into the game. But when I read 80 hours into the game and that soft locked him, that actually kind of scared me a little bit. I felt like a challenge. That felt like a challenge to me. So for those of you guys who don't know, I am a part-time dad, I work part-time, and I'm a part-time VTuber. I don't have time to play an 80-hour game, and that was kind of daunting to me. But I thought, like, if I really like the game, I can find time for it, right? And I played the game for about 3 hours, and I don't feel like I actually made any real progress at all in the game. And that I don't have time for that sort of thing. This goes back to what I said earlier about this being an issue with me, just not being for me. I think that if I played this game on the Xbox 360 when it came out, back when I was a young, fresh, early 20-something, where I just had a job and no other responsibilities, I would find time to play this game. I might like it. My tastes have changed since the original time this game came out, but it's not for me. I don't have time for that. And another thing that makes the game take even longer for me is where I understand where the 80 hours comes from, because talking to NPCs, every NPC has something to say. And normally in an RPG, you talk to someone and they have a voice line like, "Wow, I love our idyllic town. I hope nothing bad ever happens here," or "Man, the governor sure is acting strange lately." There are a lot of NPCs that have a lot to say about whatever's happening around them. And that's cool for world building, but the problem is that these NPCs don't actually say anything new. So again, I only played this game for about 3 hours, but 3 hours was kind of like long enough for me to figure out that this wasn't for me. So consider this a first look review, right? So maybe it's different down the road, but in the first town that you go to, half the NPCs, there's a lot of NPCs in town. Half the NPCs all have their own opinion and their own voice lines about whatever's happening around them. There's like 5 topics, and the problem is that they don't all have a unique perspective, because everything everybody says kind of amounts to, "Oh, I don't know much about that. You should ask so-and-so. But so-and-so doesn't know much about that either." So they just give you like little quests, little mini quests, little side quests. I don't even remember what the main quest was or where we're supposed to go. I just kind of found myself accidentally accepting all of these side quests. And I tried doing one of the side quests, and I didn't really like it. It wasn't fun. Combat wasn't fun for me. Combat wasn't fun because the way they teach you combat is kind of set me up for failure. Kind of set me up with bad expectations about what this game would be and what I would have to do. So the first 15 guys you have to fight, they can easily be stun locked with a hit. Like if they've got their sword in the air and they're ready to strike you, right? If you hit them first, it breaks their attack animation. And then after you finally get used to being able to just timing it right and breaking their attack animations, then you fight a whole bunch of dudes who are not stun locked, who don't have their animations canceled by being hit. So then you actually have to learn how to block and dodge, which that's fine, but it would have been cool if you just mixed it up a little bit. The combat itself also isn't really that crazy. It's a button to do an attack, and then it's another button to do magic. There's like no combat. There's no combat. There's no combos. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of depth to it, and that's another thing that just kind of kept me not engaged. So this is something that I think is probably unique to Re-Reckoning compared to the original, is that there is a chest in the first town that is filled with really high level stuff that's too high level for you to actually equip. And I imagine that this is part of some DLC thing where because you bought the special edition, they give you a bunch of really good stuff. But the problem is they give it to you in the first area and you can't equip it, and there's so much of it. Like, there's so much of it. I couldn't even hold it all. You have a maximum inventory slot, right? You can hold like 80 items all together, and between the tutorial area and the first fight outside of the tutorial area, I couldn't get everything out of the box and into my inventory. I was full. And I'm looking through all the stuff. I'm like, maybe I can just wear it, get rid of the stuff that I'm already wearing, and then I can, that'll give me some space, right? But this is also one of those games where there is a major and minor stat for everything, like plus 5% to cutting, plus 2% to squiddly diddly, and I don't know what any of that means. Like, I know what cutting is. I imagine there's more damage, but like, I have no frame of context this early in the game. Why are you giving me this item that I can't equip? And even if I could, I don't know what it does. Why would you do that to me? And so now my inventory is full. What the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Am I supposed to drop it on the ground? Am I supposed to carry it around with me? I don't know if there's a bank. Why? If anything, if there's like an item bank or an item storage, it should just be in there. Can I put my items back in there? Can I? So it's just kind of a mess. The biggest thing for me is that it just feels overwhelming altogether. That's the best way that I can explain the first 3 hours of the game and why I'm probably not going to come back to it, is because it's overwhelming. The game is really long. There's too much going on. They don't tell you about it, and it's not engaging. The parts that I understand are not even that engaging. And I asked on Twitter to a bunch of the people who follow me, I made a poll. I'm like, how long should you play a game before you make a review for it? And the majority of you guys said 5 hours. And I don't think I want to play this game for 5 hours. I feel like any other game, 1 hour, you should have an idea of how it goes. And I understand that in a lot of games, more mechanics come later down the road, but I don't like the game enough as it is to get to those mechanics down the road. And even if I do get there, what happens if I play through a game I don't like and get to that point, and I don't like those mechanics either? You know what I mean? So I'm being completely honest here. Complete full disclosure. I played the game for 3 hours, and I didn't enjoy it. So this is my first impression view. I made a review. I stuck to it. So, review done. It's not for me. You might like it. There. So, would I recommend it? Me personally, not really. But hey, you know what? Look, check it out. You might. Look at the Steam page. It might be for you, right? Okay, review over. I'm going to say one more thing before I end this video. Don't buy me any more games. I'm not saying that because there have been challenges with my you buy, I review thing. There have been, but that's not why. The issue is that I looked at my unplayed list, and I have over 250 games on my unplayed list. I don't want any more games. I want to play through and review all the ones that I have. If you buy me a game, I do not promise that I will review it. So, there. Hello. Hey, haircut. Looking good. Yeah, you should be sorry.